Uryu Ishida, Shino Aburame, and Vexen from the new Kingdom Hearts 3. Nominated for 5 BTVA awards and best known for Nuke Usagamaru. Is that correct? From the Dot Hack video game series?
I believe it's Usagamaru.
Huh. Alright. Today on Seireitei Talk, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything Bleach related, I have the Steve Prince. How are you, Mr. Prince?
I am good. Cole, how are you doing?
I'm well, Mr. Steve. And let me say it's an honor to have you on.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to go, so thank you. Thank you for reaching out.
So one thing I actually didn't know about you is that you're a realtor. Is it a hard business to be in? I know the anime voice industry can be competitive.
Yes. Yes and yes. It's definitely not an easy business to be in. I mean, you'd think that I would, have learned my lesson from doing voiceovers because it's a self-employed business, and yet here I am having 2 self-employed businesses. It's like, what's wrong with me? I am the kind of person that I love helping people. I've known how to do real estate for the past 23 years. In addition to holding a real estate license, I'm also a licensed mortgage loan originator, and I also help repair people's credit when they needed help. So it's just another facet of, stuff that I love doing. If I was able to just do voiceovers, like if I could just land a job on The Simpsons, I would be so devastated. But, nobody from The Simpsons has ever died, and the fact of me possibly even getting something close to that on another show would be nearly impossible considering how much those people make, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No, I do like doing both, and it definitely keeps me on my toes and keeps me busy.
That's good. During the time of Bleach, you play one of the most iconic characters, being Uryu Ishida. Is there a favorite arc that you have? I know a lot of people, when I ask them, they don't really know the names of the arcs. I mean, the names of the arcs are very out there, outlandish, if you will. I asked Johnny what his least favorite arc was, and he said it was the Bount arc. What's your take on those two?
Right. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I knew so little about, well, and I'm sure based on, your conversations that you had with some of the other cast members, we know very little about what we're recording when we're recording it. It's like we go in for 2 hours, we record it, and then we're done. And there's very little information that's ever given to us about what it is that we are recording, or like what the story is behind what we're recording. It's just like this is what this is how you're supposed to feel. This is what you're saying. So, boom, there you go. And we do it. So this caused me to, thankfully, I'm really glad you asked this question, because when I saw it, I went and I started doing some research.
Mm-hmm.
So, to my knowledge, I do not believe this arc was actually ever done, but it was done, obviously, in the manga. And there is a part in one arc, I don't remember if this arc has a specific name, but from what I was doing in my research, after, let's see, so I believe this is like a couple of years after wherever Bleach ended, the anime. And there is basically 17 months after Aizen's defeat.
Yeah.
And Uryu takes over Ichigo's original duty of protecting Kokura Town for Hollows.
Mm-hmm.
But he later comes into contact with hang on a second. I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's YHWACH.
Yuha.
Yeah. At Sober.
Yeah.
The other emitters. Was
Yes,
that
sir.
ever done?
No, sir, it was never actually done. They're doing it in Bleach Brave Souls, but it was never actually animated.
That is actually my favorite arc.
Really?
The one
Wow. That blows my mind.
now it just makes me mad that they stopped it where they stopped it, because there's so much more story to tell, and especially where it seems like, at least from what I've read and the research that I've done, where Uryu becomes a very integral part of the storyline, and realizing that in the end, if there is a moral to the story, it's like when you have great friends who are willing to stand up for you, you in turn should do the same for them. And no matter how much somebody is like pushing you up or building you up and making you forget about whatever else used to matter to you, don't ever forget about that, because that's where you get your strength from, not from the people that are just pseudo building you up, but really have their own interests at heart.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from reading what I read, and it's like, oh man, it's like this would have been such a great arc to have in the show if they had actually continued it.
There's actually... Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off. Continue.
No, you didn't cut me off, I was done.
Oh, alright. There's actually a YouTuber by the name of Retro Rhino, and I mentioned him later on in the script.
Yeah.
He is actually animating the final arc of Bleach. I'm sending over the episode if you want to watch it later.
Okay.
He actually did episode 1 or chapter 480, where the final arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, begins. And Johnny is actually doing that, like voicing our Ichigo. Like, when I brought it up to him, he was like, "Dude, that's amazing. Can I be your Ichigo?" And I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, now I have to ask, since Johnny's doing that, I'm assuming you have somebody else that is doing the voice of Uryu?
Yes, sir. He is actually... He doesn't live too far from me. He lives in, like, a couple cities over. We call him Loomis, but... the one thing we all agreed on, and I'll cut this part out, but the one thing we all agreed on was actually if any of the original voices wanted to voice their characters, like reprise their roles, then we'd all give up our roles in the heartbeat. Because I'm actually a voice actor on the project as well. I voice Neil Kaplan's role as Yamamoto.
Okay.
And
depending on what you guys are doing with Johnny as far as recording,
yes,
if it's something similar to what I can do, I would be happy to continue.
yes, sir. I'll gladly tell Ryan.
Yeah. So, I know that's more work for you guys since you've already recorded some stuff, but,
Yeah. But hey, if we could if it benefits the project, it benefits all of us.
Absolutely.
What's your least favorite arc?
My least favorite arc. Oh, man.
Whether it be filler or canon.
I can't remember what the arc is called, but it's the only reason I'm bringing up it is because I actually came back from a convention with Paul St. Peter, and he was telling me about some of the stuff that he was doing on Bleach. Mm-hmm. There's that one guard before they're able. It's in I can't remember. I think it's in like whatever world they go to, and there's this big giant bodyguard that's like defending the wall or something. I don't know if that's bringing back in.
Jidanbo, that's his name. That's the Soul Society arc.
Yeah. Okay, so the Soul Society arc is like probably my least favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
That's also a shocker, considering that's a lot of people's actual favorite. Why is it your least favorite?
Well, very selfish reasons. As you know, Uryu isn't in very much of that.
That's true. That's very true.
So it's like, okay, well, for me as an actor, that makes sense. You know, It's like my favorite arc would be the one that I didn't do very much voiceover work in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
In the case of Uryu being a rival to Ichigo, do you have any type of friendship with Mr. Bosch?
Oh, yeah. Johnny and I go way back, all the way to Power Rangers when he was Adam. Because at that point in time, which is when I first met him, I was doing the voice of Elgar for Power Rangers Turbo.
That's true.
So, yeah. And, you know, there's been several projects that he and I have both been involved in over the years, and I wouldn't say that he's a good friend of mine by any means. You know, we're kind of like chummy when we see each other. But, yeah. You know, I mean, we get along, for sure.
Now, I didn't know you've actually researched your character of Uryu, so this next question might actually come off as a bit irrelevant, but out of all of the celebrities I've interviewed, the most common question I ask is how much they know about the final arc. But in the aspect of this question, I want to focus on the specific role of Uryu. How much do you know about him and what he's done in the 1,000-Year Blood War?
Well, I know that, you know, basically in his relationship with Hashwalth,
yes,
is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so the whole thing, you know, where Hashwalth kind of takes him under his wing, and, you know, kind of, I don't know if this is going too far, but it almost seems like, and I have no idea how old this character is, but it almost seems like he's replacing Uryu's dad in a way. You know, because he's taking him under his wing and he's teaching him all these things about his powers and how, you know, he helps Uryu realize that there is something inside him which makes him different from all the other Quincy's, because it's that one thing that actually, you know, benefits everybody in the end. But in terms of, you know, his, you know, the final days, I guess, when there's a battle, from what I remember, I think they get into a fight with each other, and even though it was kind of like, you know, not a fight to the death or anything, but it was basically, I think Hashwalth, this is just me kind of internalizing what I read, but I think Hashwalth didn't have really any intention of trying to beat Uryu. It's just that he knew that there was something else inside of him, and whatever Uryu had mentally blocking him was not allowing him to release that actual power that he had, which we come to find out is the A Shrift.
Yes.
And once that realization comes about, but then he also realizes what Hashwalth's goal is, which is to basically just completely side with him and disown his friends. That's when he realizes, you know, it's like, I can't do that to these people that have helped me out all these years. You know, there's the fact that, you know, he has this huger power, I guess, is just, you know, really, really cool. But that the only thing that I didn't really like about that final arc is when he actually becomes a doctor, because he despised his dad for what he did, and the fact that he didn't really have a dad when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Their mother took care of him, you know? And because his dad was constantly working and constantly helping people, and it wasn't that, his dad was trying to do the wrong thing, but he loved his job, and his job basically took over his life.
Yeah.
And, to have Uryu go in that same direction of something that he despised growing up as a kid, which is why he initially didn't get along with his father when his father came into the picture in the whole anime. But it's like, that seemed like, in terms of the writing, it seemed like such a easy way to just resolve everything, when it probably would have been a lot more challenging if there had been something a little bit more integral in terms of what happened with Uryu after Hushwolf was defeated, that caused him to have a constant struggle within himself about wanting to do the right thing. Like, if something happened to Ichigo or something happened to Rukia, and now, because of what Uryu learned, he had to use those powers to be able to try and help save them, but had to do so in such a way that required medical attention as well, and he had to utilize whatever he had also learned from his dad to be able to do that, but yet at the same time he was conflicted because it went against everything that he hated about his dad to begin with. I think that would have been a much better way to not end the story, but still end it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because then there's like this internal conflict that we all, as human beings, have. It's like, are we really doing the right thing? Can we be doing something better? Is this the best that I can do? And it just seems like such a letdown, It's like, really? He becomes a doctor? It's just, oh, come on.
Not just a doctor, he becomes literally the last Quincy.
Yeah.
No, actually, I take that back. I forgot. After the final arc, there are some of Yuha's army that are still living, but they live in Hueco with the Hollows, which is kind of ironic considering they're Quincy's.
Yeah.
But, wow. That kind of just eliminated one of my questions. I'm not going to lie. Because I asked, in the script it says, in the final arc of Bleach, Uryu is seen on the top of the Ishida hospital watching Chad fight in a boxing match on his phone. How does it feel knowing that Uryu has finally made resolve with his father and has picked up the mantle of not only a true Quincy, but also the head of the hospital that he despised so much?
And that's the whole thing. Like, it doesn't really ever get into why he did that. Just it's like, what happened in his life to force him to completely do a 180 from his previous position against his dad and against the hospital to now suddenly embrace it?
Yeah.
But, like, if it had explained that, maybe I might feel a little bit better about what I just said. But the fact it just does, and it's like you're just supposed to accept that as a person, as a reader, or as, if it was ever done, like your friend might be doing, like if it's ever done where that arc is resolved, it never gets into that part of why. It's like you're just supposed to accept that, okay, well, you know what? I hate to bring this up, but it's kind of like the whole... Did you ever watch Digimon?
Yes, I did. I love Digimon.
Okay, so Season 2 of Digimon Adventure 2, when now, for some weird, wacky reason, on the very last episode, like, all the kids are grown up, and they're adults, and now they marry certain people. It's like, what? No, it's like, you need episodes after the supposedly last episode to be able to lead up to the last episode, so that you understand why characters are doing what they're doing, not just that they're doing them. Like, you can't expect to have followed Bleach for so long. You can't just, tie it up in a nice little bow and just expect everything to just be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, as it was, the way that they ended it, people were so pissed.
They were extremely mad. But I think one of the biggest reasons for that is because of the shipping wars. You know, people wanted Ichigo to end up with Rukia and Uryu to end up with Orihime. I won't get into that because that's a whole can of worms that nobody wants to argue over. But have you heard of the new Digimon movies, like Digimon Tri?
I know that, you know, they made 6 movies, which all focused on the season 1 Adventure Kids, older, and that, from what I know, from what I was told, there was somebody who supposedly resembled the Digimon Emperor, but was really just in disguise, and was a completely different bad guy, and there was some reference to the Digimon 2 kids either not being killed, but like something happened to them and we weren't sure what, and then there was some sort of indication in the very last movie that maybe they were in like suspended animation or something like that. That's all that I know. So yeah, I never watched any of the Tri movies or anything like that.
Yeah.
If what I just mentioned is true, like in that last movie, there actually was some sort of reference to the season 2 kids. I'm hoping, and this is just me as an actor hoping, but I'm hoping that they're going to, maybe they were doing this as a test run to see if they could find a new fan base for the Digimon characters that as older instead of the same age, and see how that would, go along with everybody. Obviously, most of the fan base that went to the movies, as far as I know, were not younger kids. They were the 20-somethings that grew up watching it. So you definitely had that fan base there. But, you know, if they were doing kind of like a test run to see if this could work out, I'm hoping what's going to happen is, if that was an indication that maybe the kids from season 2, like, they didn't, like, die somehow and they were just in some sort of suspended animation, that they find some sort of story arc to now do, like, maybe a 6-movie thing with the season 2 kids.
The Digimon Tri movies, I think it's supposed to be a 12-movie series. And
oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow,
and the latest movie, I think, actually goes into the season 2 Digidestin. It's not out yet, though. It's not out yet, though. It comes out in August, I think.
Oh, sweet. In Japan?
Yes, sir. I have no clue when it's coming out in America, but I know it's actually going to be in theaters.
I will definitely be bringing that to the attention of the people that I know who are responsible for recording, in case they're not aware, because I want to make sure that any of us actors who were involved in the season 2 are at least asked back. Whether they decide to accept that or not is completely up to them, but, you know, I would definitely love to come back and reprise Ken.
I know I'd love to see it happen. That's for
sure.
I
think a lot of people do.
Oh, I guarantee it. That's majority of America's childhood, you know, especially, like, I know Digimon's rival at the time was Pokemon, and Pokemon ended up being the bigger turnout, but they've messed Pokemon up so bad. I just want to see them do something right with something from our childhood, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, no offense to the season 1 cast, because, I mean, it was the first season of Digimon, but I think, and people can argue with me on this until I'm blue in the face, but I honestly, and it's not because I was in it, but I honestly think that the season 2 storyline is so much better than the season 1 storyline.
I agree. I really do.
Just in terms of character development, in terms of arcs of characters, all of it. So,
yeah. In your time playing Uryu, Like, how did you get into the character? And I know one of the things that you wanted me to ask was, how did you audition for Uryu?
Are you ready for a story?
I am so ready. You have no idea.
Okay, so many of you guys might know who Michael Sorich is. He is an actor that is also a voice director. He directed me on several episodes of Power Rangers when I was on that. And he's been in many, many things. He doesn't do as much now as he did back then, but 10 years ago, when we were all involved, well, it was more than 10 years ago when we recorded this, I think. I don't remember how old Bleach is now. How old is Bleach now?
It ended. The anime ended in 2012. The manga ended in 2016. It was 15 in 2016. So
we must have started recording it because I think there were like 3 seasons, 2 seasons.
Oh, of Bleach?
Yeah.
Oh, 25 seasons.
Right, but in terms of like when it was actually shown, I think they condensed that somehow. So I mean, because it wasn't on.
Yeah. I have no idea.
But okay. So however long ago it was recorded, when we had the auditions for it, I'm laughing now because I can. So when we had auditions for it, that was a very, very big deal. Like, we had all heard like this was going to be a really important anime to a lot of avid manga people who, had read the manga for a long time, and now they were looking forward to it being turned into an anime. And so I don't know how much you know, but when things are cast out here in Los Angeles, a lot of times, and I think it's the same way in Texas and New York as well, but out here in Los Angeles, like when they record something that they know is going to be a big deal, they will have not just the people that are conducting the auditions here in Los Angeles make the decisions on who gets cast, but they will actually send all of those auditions to Japan and have the original production involved as well in making the decision about who gets cast as far as the voice goes. So it was a huge deal at the time, and I know that they had gone back and forth on a few people that they were considering for all of the roles. It got to the point, and this very rarely happens in anime, like you audition, and then you're either picked or you're not picked. But to have an anime where you had a callback audition for the character was rare, which I did. I had a callback for Uryu.
Mm-hmm.
And then, on top of that, once they cast everybody, production started going like at a very, very fast pace. Like I think they may have started recording a couple of weeks after they cast everybody. So I thought that I did a very good job. I actually was wanting. I thought that I had this in the bag. But what happened was that I started hearing rumors, like Stephanie Shea and Johnny and Bosch, and those were the two main ones. I know that we had a Chad replacement. I can't remember who originally did it, but whoever originally did that. So I heard from, and I I've been in touch with these people from other shows that I worked on with them before. But Johnny was basically my point person that I had been talking to.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of weeks go by after the audition, and I start hearing rumors that they're already recording Bleach. And I didn't hear anything from the production company. I'm going, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to be kind of like, not sneaky, but, just maybe try and dig up some information and see what I can find. So I actually remember calling Johnny and saying, so, dude, congratulations. I heard that you got the lead on Bleach. And he goes, yeah, man, it's awesome. We're recording, we're doing stuff. And I'm going, yeah. And I was going, so just out of curiosity, I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this question or not, but do you know who may have built you? And there's like this 2-second pause, and he goes, dude, you heard of you. I'm going, what? He goes, yeah. I'm going, wait, what? I'm going, okay, cool, I didn't know that. So then, of course, I call the production company without trying to be too, brazen about it. I'm going, so, I'm hearing some rumors, and I'm not sure if they're true, but was I actually, for the show that you guys are doing right now, Bleach, did I get cast in that? And the person I talked to says, oh, yeah, we were going to put that, we just got busy.
Wow.
Really? Okay. So, yeah, that was a crazy way of finding out about a role that has only happened to me once in my lifetime of doing voiceovers for 23 years. Michael Sorich was actually one of the key people who helped me actually find the voice for Uryu. Because when I originally did him, much like the way that you're hearing me right now, is pretty much how I did it. And Uryu sounds very much, Uryu is me, but he has a little bit deeper of a voice, and sometimes a little bit quieter because of where, he's very much to himself. But he, especially in the first 4 or 5 episodes, when you're not sure about this character, like if you never read the manga, you wouldn't know if this guy's a good guy or a bad guy. It's like you can't really tell and figure it out. And that's kind of what they were going for. And they wanted that to be very prominent when they were casting this. And so that's one of the reasons I think that they had a callback, is they wanted to make sure that I could make that first part of the story believable as far as where he starts from and then where he goes to. Mm-hmm. So he's very much like my own voice, just a little bit more settled in, a little bit deeper. And, if I start talking like this, then that's a little bit more of how Uryu turned out to be. When we did the live action version, however, I had to switch it up a bit, because it's clear from the actor who actually portrayed Uryu in the live action version that he, like, hearing that deep of a voice come out of that young of a face, it's like you would never believe that.
Yeah.
So we had to young him up a little bit for the movie, which worked out very well, at least from what I saw and what I remember recording. Not everybody, as you know, was in the movie that did the characters in the anime, and part of that reason, I don't know if you ever got the answer to this, but I'll share it with you if you didn't. Part of the reason that some of these same actors were not involved was simply because, based on the actual physical form of the live action actors, the voices just didn't quite go with the face.
Really?
That makes any sense. Yep.
Huh. Because I spoke with Johnny about it, and he said that Michelle Ruff was like very upset that she wasn't even like asked to be in it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Yep. And that is that. Now, whether that's a story that was told to me so that they can feel better about what they did, I don't know, or whether that was the actual truth. I'm not gonna point fingers at anybody or anything, but that's one of the reasons that because I inquired about why Michelle wasn't involved, and that's what they told me. So maybe that's, if they knew right from the start, like, for what they needed to do with Rukia, and based on the type of voice that they know Michelle has, whether that would work or not, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But that's what they told me. So.
Along the lines of character questions, I asked the main cast to say one line from the manga. I asked Johnny to say Getsuga Jujisho, Kyle to say, what was it, Welcome to My Soul Society, and I asked Neil to say Zanka no Tachi. These are the three main things that people would love to hear from the final arc that we may unfortunately never actually get to hear. It's also mostly for bragging rights on my part, because how many people actually have these audio recordings, you know? But for you, Mr. Steve, it's a antithesis. The context behind this is, while the final fight is going on, Uryu is fighting the right-hand man of the main villain, Yuha. He's fighting Jugram Hashwolf. He's been beaten and is now bloodied and battered, and is what is seeming to be his last breaths. He releases his trump card, the antithesis, which completely reverts any damage he has taken onto his opponent. And I know the fans would love to hear you say the antithesis.
Okay. So, if I'm not mistaken, just so I've got a good reference, so this is the first time that he uses it, right?
Yes, sir.
Was not used before. This is his trump card, basically, to win the fight. And at this point, he's almost beaten to a pulp. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm actually sending the scans over to you right now if you'd like to use that as the reference.
Oh, sweet. Okay. How are you sending them?
On Facebook.
Oh, cool. Let me take a quick look at that. See if I can see it. Okay. Oh, wow. Ooh. Huh. Okay. Got that. So, is it the antithesis, or is it like in the manga as I'm seeing here, antithesis A?
It's a antithesis.
Okay. So, got it. Based on that, then, you've got it right there.
If you'd like, we could do a back and forth with it.
Oh, sweetness! Yeah, you know what? Let's start with the top, and I'll lead into that. That would be awesome. All right.
Cool.
So, if I'm reading this correctly on the manga, the weight is Uryu. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So I'll go ahead and start. This will be fun. All right. Wait. My shrift. Don't. You got it backwards.
Yeah. It's right to left.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've got it backwards. In fact, I was just thinking, it's time. If it would have assured you victory, you would have surely used
no, that's me.
That's you. Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Okay, so
Okay,
let me go back.
Watch. The way it goes is, wait, don't you wish to see my script? And then it's Hashwell saying, how pathetic. A sad, desperate attempt to buy yourself a
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we do. All right. Okay, here we go. Wait. Don't you wish to see my shrift?
How pathetic. A sad, desperate attempt to buy yourself a precious few seconds. If it would have assured you victory, you would have surely used it by now.
You've got it backwards. In fact, I was just thinking, it's just about that time.
Such nonsense.
My shrift. Hey! Antithesis!
That was, my heart is like actually pounding really hard right now. That was actually the first time I've ever done that. That was amazing.
That's sweet. That's awesome.
But it's been about 45 minutes. That's usually around how long these interviews last. So, finally, I'd like to say it's an honor to have you on, to have gotten you on, Mr. Steve. I know I and the fans truly appreciate it. Is there any form of social media that you'd like to shout out, or to tell the fans what you've got going on in your life that you'd like them to know about?
Sure. Well, they can always follow me on either one of the two main social medias that I use, which is either Facebook or Instagram. If they just simply type in the search box at VoiceOver Prince, all one word, VoiceOver Prince, VoiceOverPrince, they will be able to find my fan page on Facebook or the Instagram. On Instagram, I have to accept you. So if you are one of those people that doesn't really use Instagram, but creates an Instagram account just because you want to see stuff that I do, back your request up, with sending me a direct message and saying, hey, I'm this person, I know I have 0 posts or I have 0 followers, but I just really like your work and I hope you can accept me, and I'm happy to do that. I tend to be very skeptical because there's so many people out there that, I like to think the best of people, but unfortunately that is not always the case. You can follow me on either one of those two social mediums. If you are just a fan of my work in particular, then I am currently on 2 shows right now that you guys, depending on what you might have access to or not via cable, on Saturday nights at I believe it got pushed to 11:30. But Boruto is on Adult Swim. And then some weird, wacky time, in the middle of the morning, at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, you can still watch Naruto Shippuden. And in both of those shows, obviously, I play Shino Aberano. And then on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock on the Disney XD channel, I am in a show called Beyblade Burst Turbo, where I play Renjiro... what is it? Renjiro Kiyama. You can't miss him because he's the only one that has the biggest hair out of everybody in the entire cast. But I'm currently doing. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention at all to the biggest anime game in the history of being sold, in the first week, which is Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm in that, and I reprise my role as Vexen/Evan. So pick that up if you have a console that you can play it on. And other than that, there is some stuff that is in the works. I'm not allowed to really talk about it, but the way that you can find out when I am allowed to talk about it is by following me on one of those 2 social media. One more thing. There is an app. So for those of you guys who like going to conventions, if you're the convention goer type, there was an app that was created by 2 voiceover actors, Bryce Papenbrook and David Vincent. And the app is called Unlocked. So it is a way for when you are not at a convention to still keep in touch with some of your favorite actors. And we all do shows on a regular basis. And you just have to find out when that show is, but we do live streams. And it's a way for us to be able to interact with, with fans as well when we're not at a convention. And everybody can do something different. Nobody does the same thing. There's some actors that just, watch shows with their fans, and there are some that do something completely different, and like it's a cooking show. And I myself have a show on Sundays. It's usually at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's always, from my understanding on the app, is that it's always free to watch if you're watching while it's streaming live. If you ever wanted to watch any of the shows that we recorded previously, then that requires a subscription. But you can monitor that subscription like on a monthly basis, or a 6-month basis, or a year basis, or whatever, and it's pretty reasonable from what I understand.
Yeah.
But that's another way just for fans in general, if they want to just see some of their favorite actors do stuff. I don't know if Johnny's doing a show on there, or Stephanie, but I know that there are some other people that do shows on there. Seireitei and David Vincent and Bryce Peppenbrook do some, and Todd Habercorn's on there. So many voiceover actors. So yeah, it's just another cool. That's something that you guys want to get into, that you can. That pretty much covers everything.
All right. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Lord knows I did. This was amazing for me. And once again, I very much appreciate it, Mr. Prince. I hope you all have sweet dreams, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Seireitei Talk, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything Bleach related.